Happy Sunday, Risers. We're back with another round of #RisingQs where we answer your questions. So let's get to the first one. I think Robbie's got it for you.
Alrighty, this question comes from Visigoth Sloth. That's another excellent name. Do you guys ever get heated over political issues off camera? I watch this show as a former libertarian because it's the only place I can hear respectful exchanges from such diametrically opposed hosts. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think... It's pretty genuine.
Robbie and I totally duke it out. We just can't stand each other. We fight all the time. You should see it off camera. It's pretty bad. We actually put on a good face for the camera.
None of that is true. When we're arguing off screen, it's usually about like movies or something. Like you didn't like the new Matrix movie, and I did.
I hated that one, and I cannot believe you. I mean, that's the thing we fight about. Yeah. Robbie and I fight about the new Matrix movie. Yeah. He loved it. I think it was horrible. I don't know how he could like it.
See, this is what I endure.
Yeah.
I mean, we agree on most. You and I are both very interested in all the COVID stuff, and we're in pretty close agreement on that stuff. I think we would agree. I think if we talked about economic policy at greater length, the differences between your opinion and mine would become more stark, and maybe it would get heated. But I think on a lot of the stuff that we're passionate about right now, we're pretty close. So there's not all that much to get really heated about.
I don't know. Yeah, I think in my experience so far, it's been as long as things don't get into kind of morality questions, that's always the stuff that gets heated, I think, in politics is always when it goes down to morality. So on the right, if it's a question of morality when it comes to Christianity or abortion rights or something like that, then people tend to get pretty heated in those discussions. And on the left, it has been, things like racism or things like COVID, right, which seem to be more of a moral signaling coming from the left. Those are the types of things where people get most upset over. But I would say we all get along. I know people always wonder if Ryan and I get along. Ryan and I do get along off camera.
They do.
We have conversations and so people are always like, oh, you guys must all hate each other or something. And it's just not true. I mean, on camera, things you guys see it. I mean, if it's anytime we've gotten heated, you've seen it. Yeah. And there's nothing else, that you haven't seen. So. Yeah. You don't get the good stuff, which is all the fun stuff that we talk about off camera.
Like our Harry Potter houses, yeah.
Yeah, Ravenclaw. All right, let's go to, you would be. Let's go to the next question here. This is, I'm not going to even try to read that name. This is I Miss Carlin. So they asked this question: would a proper and thorough investigation into the supposed Hunter Biden ties to the Ukraine be, or to Ukraine, we don't say the Ukraine anymore, to Ukraine be something we'll be seeing pushed as we draw nearer and nearer to entering the conflict there? What's interesting about Ukraine, and by the way, it used to be the Ukraine when it was part of the USSR, and then now that it's its own country, they dropped the, so that's why. I had to be taught that lesson too. I think as we get closer with this conflict kind of heating up, I'm sure both sides are going to be pointing to the corruption in Ukraine, right? So you have Hunter Biden, which the right is going to be pointing to and saying, that's why Biden is doing XYZ. It's because he's got ties to Ukraine from his son. But then remember, that was why Trump was impeached, right? Was over Ukraine and his phone call to the president of Ukraine and supposedly pressuring him, right? So, and then that president came out and said, I wasn't pressured. Everything was fine. Ukraine is this new developing country. And because they're new, they've only been around for 30 years as its own independent nation. Ukraine has been around for a long time, but as its own independent nation has a very short history. And because of it, there's a lot of corruption in Ukraine. There's a lot of instability, and they're kind of, I think, just doing whatever Washington wants them to do. And so I don't think there's any one side or the other when it comes to the corruption or to the paths that we can find, links we could find between the White House and Ukrainian, interests or White House interests or corruption interests. So I'm sure we're going to see all of it coming from everybody.
Well, and
everybody's a warmonger.
We didn't quite, with the Biden stuff, they didn't get the other peg of it. You couldn't, there was not evidence shown. Maybe it exists somewhere. Maybe it is true. But that President Biden himself was really leveraged by, Hunter was clearly peddling influence, but it wasn't clear it was successful. And then with the Trump stuff, it was wrong. I think it was wrong for Trump to like to ask that, what he was asking. But like all diplomacy is trying to put pressure on other countries to do things we want. So that was what was so weird about that. Like, oh no, this is impeachable that like he tried to get a country to do what we want. Like that's what all diplomacy is. So I found like maybe you didn't think he should have done that, and I didn't think he should have done that, but it was a very, so I don't know that we're going to be talking about these things again. They just feel like very last news cycle or last season.
Yeah.
And they're so kind of tangential, but it's interesting to bring them up. I mean, the Ukraine has been pretty involved for this small kind of corrupt country that, well, I guess it's not that small. It's they're
big
a bigger
country, 40 million people, but it's, it's new. But again, like even before Hunter Biden, you could go back and say, well, what was up with John McCain and when he showed up and in 2014, and then there was this coup and, so and Obama and that administration was maybe facilitating. So there's a lot of both sides when it comes to Ukraine, but that's because both sides are big warmongers. We have warmongers in the Democratic Party and warmongers in the Republican Party, and we have people that are anti-war on both sides. Those voices are seemingly growing on the Republican side of the party, seemingly dwindling
and shrinking on the Democratic side.
Right. So, but yeah, I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot of confusion when it comes to Ukraine, I think, in the weeks ahead. So,
well,
do we have one more?
Yep, we got one more. Last but not least, Truth Rising asks, why is Nancy Pelosi running for office again in 2022? She'll be 82 in March and 87 at the end of her term. Shaking my head. Yeah.
There's got to be an age limit. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't know if there should be. I take that back. There shouldn't be an age limit. Because what if somebody's 82 and they decide to run and everybody champions them? I mean, it should be just what the people want, I suppose. So if she wants to run and the people want to vote her in, that's democracy, like it or not. I guess she could continue to run, but it's not good for the party, I don't think. I think the party needs new leadership, and she needs to be cultivating that leadership if she wants the Democratic Party to have a life beyond her and Biden, right? So, I mean, they're trying, I suppose, with like younger faces, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg. There's some other, obviously the squad, but they're not really cultivating the squad into leadership roles. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think there should be age limits, Robbie, in Congress?
No, I don't think there should be age limits because some people are perfectly, perfect. And I think Nancy Pelosi is like, she's healthy and, mentally there.
Right. Yeah.
Some people age so differently. You can be energetic. You can be just as lucid and just as competent, just as energetic as you were as a much younger person. And then some people, by the time they hit 60, 70, could be not perfectly competent for that kind of role. So there's no really age limit you could set, I think, that takes into account like the vast difference of how people are in the later stages of their life. But it is concerning to me. We are currently ruled by the oldest class of people ever in this country. Joe Biden is so old. Donald Trump was old. Like our next president is, I think, extraordinarily likely to be either Joe Biden again or Donald Trump again. And they'll be even older than they were last time. The Speaker of the House is very old. And we're also living through this once in 100-year virus that is most dangerous for people who are very old.
So they're like legislating for themselves,
Well, it's not even that, but I mean, like, what if they, if they were to contract it? I mean, they're vaccinated, they've got all sorts of, but they could there's a threat to their health, and it poses certain, I guess, kind of like national security concerns that we are so reliant on people who are really getting up there. And there's no pressure. Why is there no pressure to just retire, like, internally in the party? That's what happens in other countries, in Europe, in European political parties. They say you're done, old timer. You got to retire. There's more, so the young guns can come along.
Well,
and there's so little of that.
Well, of course, there's so little of that because here it's all about, they've got all of these big money donors that have been entrenched with these politicians for so long, and they know the game, they know how it's played, they know who's who, they know what's what, they know where the money's coming from. Nancy Pelosi, she runs the money for the Democratic Party. She knows where all of those dollars are coming from. She knows which donor is what, which donor's connected to who. And that's a difficult thing to, I guess, teach somebody fresh coming in. You want to make sure that they know who all of who their corporate masters and overlords are. And so, they've got an entire manual that they would need to write up. And of course, the younger generation doesn't want much to do with that because they're saying, no, we need to get money out of politics. We need to get this corruption out. We need to get the democracy in, big money interests out. And, that's the issue that I think that's why we're seeing so many of these older politicians staying in there. They are the establishment and they're entrenched.
Yeah, and another related question, though, is why do they even want to stay in office? Like, Nancy Pelosi is now extremely wealthy. She could retire very happily. She could still be involved. She could still have a lot of power just via her connections. But there is political power itself, is being in the government that seductive and that alluring that you want to be working very hard in your mid and late 80s? If it's that great. I don't if we do this show for 60 more years and we're super, we have a zillion views on YouTube and we get really wealthy. Don't you think we'll be okay, I'm gonna live on the beach now or something? The idea that you would
beach now, Robbie. Come on.
Well, yeah. I don't know, but you know what I mean? The idea that you can never say I'm done and I have enough if you're in politics.
Sorry to hate to break. You guys are going to be seeing my old face all the way until I'm 95 years old. I'll be here still on YouTube, which probably won't even, it'll be YouTube will be the thing of 8 tracks, right?
The record
Nobody
player.
will know what it is. Yeah, it'll be old and antiquated. I don't know.
Our holograms will be appearing in people's living rooms, perhaps.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what the future holds, but I'm sure it's exciting.
Well, that does it for us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all tomorrow.
All right, bye-bye.